Nowiowin Naomi Bailey. Ni Hiao Creme TOG Prince Albert, Saskatchewan. Nemewiyadin Otas Nanemach Aske Mina Otameti Kagwikatwal. Nia Mewidin Ota Wigian Sagatin Kiskiamowin Ota Aski. So greetings, my name is Naomi Bailey. I'm Cree Métis from Prince Albert, Saskatchewan. I want to acknowledge that I'm on the traditional unceded territory of the Snuneymuxw First Nation. This is also the chosen home of the Métis people. And I'm honored to be able to live, love, and learn on their beautiful land. With great respect and humility, we will acknowledge and honor the lands of the Snuneymuxw people. The Snuneymuxw people maintain their profound, unique, and spiritual connection to the lands through ageless traditions, teachings, stewardship, and expressions of reciprocity. I first will start with, are there any additions, deletions, or change in order to the agenda? Charlene.
Hi, thank you. I don't have a change in order to the agenda, but at the calendar item, I would like to propose a motion that it get postponed. I'm not sure if you'd like me to do that now or just letting you know for later.
Why don't we do it later when we get to that place on the agenda? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other? Charlene? Or Chantel, sorry. Trustee Morvay?
Thank you, Trustee Bailey. I have 2 items. If we could add that to the agenda, more is just announcements. So I'm wondering if we could do that under new business. There are 2 items. One is an acknowledgement that it's the first day of Black History Month, and a reminder about the environmental survey for JEDI.
Yes, we can add that to new business.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Can I have a motion now to approve the agenda? Okay. Sorry. Leanne Lee will Leanne Lee, sorry. We'll have you be the you've approved the motion. The seconder? And Leanna E. Sorry. All those in favor? Or how about I just say, if anyone's opposed, put it in the chat. Okay, it looks like it's moved. All right. Approval of the minutes. Do we have somebody who would like to move for approval of the minutes? Okay, Mark. Trustee Robinson and a seconder. Chantel. Anyone opposed? Okay, so that's passed. Okay, moving on to presentations. It doesn't look like we have any today, but we do have on item 8 is senior staff reports. And Department of Learning Services. And it looks like Laura is there. All right.
Great, thank you, through the chair. Good evening. We have, under the Department of Learning Services, we have 2 reports around the strategic plan for you this evening, along with 2 school presentations. And the first presentation focuses on the goal of continuous improvement in students with complex and unique abilities, Indigenous and overall student population on student achievement. And the Learning Services strategy to this end is to deepen our understanding of and personalization of the pathways to graduation. So I'll invite Assistant Superintendent Dawn Balcom to address this strategy with us this evening. Thanks, Dawn.
Thank you, Deputy Tate. Can you see my screen okay? Awesome. Okay. Thank you very much. So I sent an information sheet out that the trustees would have had, and it would have had lots of information around the graduation program. And the graduation program begins at grade 10, but of course this story is not a story of just what happens to students grade 10, 11, and 12. This is that's the end 3 years of a 13-year journey through the system. So I just want to begin by acknowledging all of the staff and parents and community that support students throughout their entire 13-year journey, while the focus today is on the graduation program of the last 3 years. So I'd like to start off by a shout out to that. I'll probably mention Sally Kitch, who was the grade 1 teacher for both of my wife and our daughters when they were in grade 1, and they remember fondly that grade 1 experience, learning the beginning steps to learning to read as they headed off. So I want to acknowledge all of the educators that play an important role along the way. As mentioned, the strategy here is to share a little bit of information around personalization of pathways to graduation. So in the information sheet that I provided lots of information on the 3 different pathways that students take in the graduation program. There's the Dogwood Diploma certification, which I'll talk a little bit more at length about here in a minute. There's the Adult Dogwood, as well as the Evergreen Certificate. So I'm going to speak to how we personalize those, both in ways that are working well for students, as well as some of the challenges we have in supporting students to successfully complete pathways to graduation, and talk about some next steps. So I'm going to go in reverse order here, and I'm going to speak first about the Evergreen Certificate. The Evergreen Certificate is exclusively for those students who have diverse abilities or disabilities. Students are required to meet one of the ministry designations and have an individual educational plan. One of the beautiful things about the Evergreen Certificate is it allows students to pursue areas of learning that have an interest for them, both while they're in high school, but also in setting them up for where they might head after they complete high school. So often students with an Evergreen Certificate focus on independent living skills when they move on, as well as post-secondary further education in areas of interest to them. So there's lots of opportunity for students to take regular ministry prescribed courses, board authorized courses, as well as modified courses, which allow them to participate alongside their peers, perhaps in a curricular area that is of interest to them, but due to their designation and their diverse abilities, they may not be able to meet the full requirements for the Dogwood Diploma. So the Evergreen Certificate is an area where we celebrate student successes. One of the challenges we have is in preparing students for what happens when they leave secondary school. So one of the goals for us as a district is to look at more personalized pathways that ensure students leave and walk across the stage knowing exactly what their next steps are, and their families are fully supported in where those students will go next with that. The Adult Dogwood has some specific criteria around it. Students have to be 18 years or older to begin the Adult Dogwood program. And so many students who begin this path are students who have, for some reason or another, struggled to make it to the Dogwood Diploma, and they find themselves at the age of 18 having not earned very many credits towards the Dogwood Diploma. And I'll speak more about the 80 credits required. And the ministry's Adult Dogwood allows students who are 18 years of age or older to receive an Adult Dogwood by completing 5 courses. And one is the English Language Arts requirement, another is a mathematics course at grade 11 or 12, and then 3 additional electives. And the strength of the Adult Dogwood program is it allows students who are either looking for employment skills or for post-secondary learning as an adult learner to take those elective courses in areas that will benefit them the most. So lots of our students who decide that the Adult Dogwood is the pathway for them to complete schooling have the options to say, here's an area that I'm interested in. These courses will provide me with the most skills that will help me be successful on the job, or to pursue upgrading at post-secondary as they go along. The biggest challenge around the Adult Dogwood is what happens in those years prior to the student turning 18 and choosing the Adult Dogwood. So as a system, we're wondering where did we miss opportunities to have those students successfully earn 80 credits? And sometimes students' life circumstances make attending school on a regular basis very challenging, and earning credits towards graduation a struggle. But those are the challenges for the system to be able to say, we want to maintain you on your Dogwood diploma path instead of having the adult dogwood be the choice because we haven't supported enough successful credits. So there's a barrier that is always conversations for staff. The Dogwood diploma, and I chose this little picture of a student sitting by themselves because the Dogwood diploma really does allow for the most personalization for students on their own choice. So when you think of 52 credits, students can earn 8 courses, 32 credits a year. And you think of 28 credits of elective courses as that's almost a full year. If a student does all of grade 12 and they do 32 credits, almost their entire year of grade 12 could be full of elective courses. And students personalize their pathways on their own through course selections based on what they're interested in. So this ranges from a student who says, I'm really into clothing and textiles and I want to spend as much time earning credits in that area, to students who are big into computer studies or woodwork, or students who say, I'm going to join the Jazz Academy because I want to fill up my electives in that path, to students who say, I'm very interested in the social sciences and all of my coursework in grade 10, 11, and 12 when I have choice is going to lead me into academic courses that are going to lead along that path. So a lot of personalization happens in grade 10, 11, and 12. And I often use the example of 2 identical twins will start kindergarten together, but when they leave in grade 12, often the credits that they've earned in the grade 10, 11, and 12 years are vastly different, even though they may be identical twins, finish each other's sentences, but their choices in how they build their pathway to graduation vary greatly. The barriers, of course, are some of those required credits. Often there are courses that the students all have to take as part of the requirements to meet the Dogwood diploma. And we need as a system to find more innovative and creative ways to ensure that those are not barriers to students. If at the end of grade 10, if you have 32 credits that you could have earned, if you've only earned 8 or 12, we're not confident that we can get that student graduation. So there's some early intervention places that we need to pay attention to. In addition to building those individual credits, I talked a little bit about the neighborhood school personalized pathways. So that's the student who says, fill me up with theater classes because that's my passion and that's where I want to go. There were the career and technical program opportunities that were in the information sheet, as well as things like equivalency and challenge external credits and independent directed studies. So often students will say, I'm in the Royal Conservatory of Music and I'm doing my piano. I've been studying piano for 10 years. Students can earn external credits for that, or they're doing a life-saving course, which the city of Nanaimo is hoping more students will take. There's external credits for that. If you sign up for driver's education, you can earn external credits. Independent directed studies allow students who are at a school to say, hey, I would really love to further my learning in this area, and the school may not offer a continued course in that area. It allows students to build their own learning program, and they can earn 1, 2, 3, or 4 credits in independent directed studies. So there's lots of personalized pathways for students who are passionate, enthusiastic about their learning in different areas. And then you'll see the other programs or some of our Tier 3 programs through Learning Alternatives that allow students to have a more supportive environment to remain on a pathway to their Dogwood diploma. And each of those programs have a little bit more information in the appendix that was sent out earlier today to trustees around those. So I'm going to finish off by just saying that all of our schools are looking at providing different tiered supports, so personalized level within each class, within each school, and also Tier 3 for unique programs that provide support for students. identifying the barriers for success for the Evergreen, for the adult, and for the Dogwood diploma, and then finally looking at ways to engage students and staff in finding unique ways to say, here's one additional pathway that we haven't had a student take to get to graduation, knowing that that will allow a student coming up who may be starting kindergarten this year by the time they get to the grade 10, 11, and 12 program to build further unique pathways. So there's a short little update on our pathways to graduation, and I'm happy to stop sharing this and take any questions or comments if there are any before moving on to our next presentation.
If people have questions, if you could put them in the chat, I would greatly appreciate that. And it looks like so far our speakers list is Chantel and then Greg.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, Chair, to Dawn Balcom and Laura Tate. I have a kid in high school, and I really appreciate this extensive information sheet that you've given. This is exactly what I was wanting for myself personally, and I think having other families be able to access this in such a great format can really help answer a lot of questions. I know I have, and bugging the teacher all the time is not so great. So having this at our fingertips is really fantastic. I actually have two-part question now that I think about it. One question actually arose. Somebody was talking about a situation, and it jingled a question for me when I was reading this agenda. The question is, does every student that needs Tier 3 supports have to leave their catchment in order to access their pathway to Dogwood? And it's more in particular the schools that don't actually have the Tier 3 ALP programs in the school. So how would that, if you could let folks know how that would look?
Yeah, and I think that's been one of the silver linings of COVID was the number of students who found COVID to be such a challenge that they struggled to engage in their educational program. And I think all of our schools, and I'm not just talking about students in grade 10, 11, and 12, we're talking all of our K to 12 sites wanted to provide supports without students, as you said, having to leave their school to get the supports they have. So all of our secondary schools have some form of an outreach program that is on site that allows students to have some additional supports, maintaining connections with their neighborhood school. And even our Tier 3 supports through some of our learning alternative programs are not designed to be a graduating program. They're designed to be a semester or maybe a full year and then have students re-engage. So our flow program is an example for that, right? It typically has students in grade 8 and 9 with the idea of saying we'll provide intensive support for you for a short period of time with the hopes that we can re-engage you with your neighborhood school or with another program that better meets your needs. So yeah, ideally we would have all Tier 3 supports in every one of our school, but sometimes just for the sake of staffing, right, we need to pull students into what we, a district program for a period of time.
Thank you. If I could have a follow-up question through you, Chair.
Sorry, I didn't have my mic on. I was just asking if you had a follow-up. So yes,
Yep.
Carry on.
Thank you. I read your lips. There you go. I'm wondering, this information sheet, it's within the agenda and that's great and stuff. But like I said, that's really, really, really great information. Is there a pamphlet? Is there somewhere on the website that families can go to see this? That's like the agenda. It's kind of hard because it's kind of embedded in there, right? And so it's hard for families to sort of like find that again, right? Is there a way that we could have a hyperlink on the website regarding this, like, grad or something like that? I just think this is really, really great information and great to have that there, so that families have it at their fingertips.
We don't currently, but you know what, our communications department does beautiful work. So I think what we'll do is we'll ask them to kind of beautify it as they do, and then make it posted on the on school and district websites. Because yeah,
I think it's so valuable. Yeah. It's a great resource. Thank you.
Okay, and next on the list is Greg. Trustee Keller.
Yes, thank you, Naomi. Through you to staff, thank you for the presentation. It's always nice to see the myriad of different pathways to graduation that are offered in the district. And my question is kind of twofold. When it comes to the varied, I wouldn't expect this in all the pathways, but in some, I'm wondering how we're doing in terms of meeting demands, and are there areas where maybe we don't have enough capacity in some of the pathways that maybe we could look at in the future?
That's an excellent question, and I think it's difficult to answer because if one student would like to have a certain pathway, which may involve 2 or 3 courses in their grade 10, 11, and 12 year that's not available to them, then I would say we're not meeting their needs. But overall, as far as the choice of programs, it usually begins with student interest, and then a teacher says, yeah, we can build a course that's around that if it's not one of the typically offered courses. I think the bigger challenge is in that group of students who are saying, where the school is saying, we've got all of these different options for you, please pick ones that kind of interest you, and the students are saying, none of it interests me, I'm not interested. So it's finding ways to get students engaged and earning credits towards graduation when they're not really interested until they get into a program and realize, hey, I actually like this. So it's kind of building those opportunities when students are not able to articulate what they really want. They're just able to articulate what's not working for them, right? Where they'll say, this schedule isn't working for me, or having 4 or 8 different classes in a year with 8 different groups of students isn't working for me. So often students struggle to articulate, hey, build this. They don't know what this is. So that's where the teachers in the system try to say, well, let's try this combination, or let's try this schedule, or this level of support. So that's a roundabout way of saying we're always looking to students to say what would work better for you.
Do you have a follow-up, Greg?
Yeah, I might be able to try and sneak this in as a follow-up if you'll allow me, Chair. If you could clarify through the chair to staff, I think what I heard, and I think you mentioned something about getting credit for driver's education and how that, could you explain to us how that works?
Yeah, so there's what are known as external credentialing, and so the ministry has a whole list, and the school counselors are the best source of that. And often students don't even know what credits are available to them out there. So sometimes we'll have high-performing students in sports, and every sport association has different qualifications. So some sports will be, if you qualify on a provincial team, you can earn external credits for the level of competition you're at. Other sports, you have to make the national team to have those standards, but there's all different kinds of external opportunities. And taking a driver's education course and successfully completing it is one option that provides some additional credits. And lots of students don't need them. A lot of students take full courses in grade 10, 11, and 12. They leave with 96 credits. They may take something in addition. So sometimes it's not that they need it, but it's nice to get credit if you've done courses. And other students who have struggled in school and may be working and may not be able to attend full time, that's often where the counselors are like, hey, let's get you work experience because you're currently working, and what else have you done? And they're like, well, I've done my life saving. Let's see if we can get you credit for that. Or you know what, I do play on a sports team or some music or other external credits. So yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, next on the list is Mark. It's Trustee Robinson.
Hi, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Don. Most importantly, thank the counselors, teachers, and EAs and the parents that get the kids through these personalized pathways. Your information that you gave us this evening, Don, it's really important to get the information to the hands of the trustees as soon as possible. So, and this is a good example of a well thought, well put together, concise package. So appreciate that. It's very important for us trustees to get that information. My question through the chair to you, Don, is it kind of regards the Take a Hike program. Is this something that the district created itself, or is it a concept that we borrowed? Because I'm very interested in engaging kids that learn at a different pace, learn at a different level, have, you know, some people learn by reading, by writing, by hands-on. Is this something that we came up with, or did we kind of steal it? Thanks, Don.
So a lot of programs are homegrown, so teachers kind of come up with the programs and build them. Take a Hike is a foundation, and they've worked with a number of school districts in the province. They do a lot of fundraising to provide the additional support. So we were fortunate enough that they were interested in providing that connection, that partnership with the school district, and we gladly partner with them because they do bring some resources to the district that we don't have financially for other programs. So yeah, whenever there's a program out there that wants to partner, we're happy to, but most of the programs are ones where teachers have looked around and said, hey, I think this might help meet the needs of some kids. And it's kind of, it grows from the passion of educators outward. But yeah, Take a Hike's an example where they're looking to expand around. And I actually was talking with a district about 2 weeks ago who called me and said, hey, Take a Hike is interested in supporting a program in our district. I know you have one in Nanaimo. Ladysmith, tell me about it. And it was a glowing endorsement because it's great work that they do with that group of students.
Wonderful. I have a follow-up, Chair, if I may. Something you said, Don, when you mentioned that, you know, asking teachers what they can come up with. How far do we go in terms of consulting the students themselves to find out what engages them and what can attract them, so we can develop programs that will engage them as I would say, as sticky as possible?
Mm-hmm. I would say any teacher who's interested in developing any kind of program already has a group of students interested, because you can't offer it if a teacher, like if Laura and I were talking and I said to Laura, I've got this great idea, and she's like, great, let's offer it. And then no students sign up for it. She's like, well, that wasn't a very good idea. So usually what teachers do is they start with students, right? Saying, hey, I'm thinking of doing this. What do you think? And students like, I'd sign up for that. That sounds good. And then they talk to more students who said, I wouldn't sign up for that. They're like, well, why not? What's missing? And then they said, well, if you added this, and then they build it, and then you end up with a group of students that are keen on it. So the students are usually the source of it, right? They're usually like, I wish school was more like this, and teachers are listening going, oh, I could build that. And that's happening now with our outdoor ed teachers, right? Who are looking at students who are saying, just maybe I could build something where I put a couple of classes together. So we spend half a day together for a semester. What do you think of that? And they're feeling students out. And that's kind of how those programs evolve. And all of our programs to help students re-engage with programs, it's conversations at Learning Alt. It's with students saying, how come you don't come to school? And they're like, I don't like school. And they're like, here's all the different ways we can support you. What's missing, and we'll build it.
Thank you, Don and Laura, and thank you, teachers and EAs. Thank you. We all thank you.
Okay, and next up, I have Jessica Krog Irving would like to ask a question.
So I'm just kind of curious as to how much autonomy students get in their course selection, and sort of at what age, because I mean, in a perfect world, students get to pick what they would like to do, and there's no such thing as a pushy parent who has forced them to pick specific classes, whether or not that is where their strengths or even interests lie. And also with like IEPs, at what point do students get to say, can we maybe reevaluate this? I was maybe given a certain label when I was 7. I don't know if that still fits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point. I think for the when do they get their choices around the program? As I mentioned in the information sheet, often, kind of that upper intermediate grade 4, 5, 6, 7 students get to, they get a little bit of choice around, hey, I really like this. Can I do more of that? When they hit grade 8, they get that little elective rotation block where everybody gets a bit of a sampling. So, right now we have 1,000 students in grade 8 who by the end of the year will have had a sampling of anywhere from 6 to 8 different curricular areas. And that kind of gets their juices flowing, right? I want a little bit more of that. when they hit the graduation program, grade 10 is fairly prescriptive, right? Teachers or students have to take English, math, science, socials, PE, and career life education. So they only have room for 2 electives, so they don't have a lot of space. But grade 11, they get twice as much choice. In grade 12, the only course that every student is required to take at the grade 12 level is the English language arts requirement. That is it. Everything else is an elective. Now that sounds funny when you say that, when parents are thinking, well, my kid needs chemistry. Well, they don't need chemistry. They choose chemistry. It's an elective. Well, they also need physics because they want to go into engineering, or calculus becomes, but those are all elective choices. So, you know, students often build their course, as I said, their schedule in grade 12 is full of electives, even though they may say, I want to do this post-secondary, and there's a specific program. And I always encourage parents to you know, explore with their children, especially as they get older, on what you think they need and versus what they actually need. And often I've had conversations with parents who are like, well, what if my kid doesn't take, you know, physics 12? Like, I really think they need to because they want to do this course. And I always tell them, not taking it in grade 12 is not the end of that academic path. It just means they won't take it in grade 12. They can go to post-secondary and take the equivalent of physics 12 and redo that. And I remind parents all the time that many students start off on a post-secondary path and then change second year, change third year. It often takes them a number of years. So making a choice, you know, when you're 16 years old, I think I need to do this. It doesn't close doors as much as we think it does, right? It does close the door temporarily. It doesn't put the lock bolt on it, so you can never open that door again. So I always encourage students, you know, involve your parents in what you want to take. And yes, sometimes making choices can be difficult because students are like, I want all my doors open. And if I make this choice, it closes that door. It's like, well, you have to close some doors temporarily for a bit.
And then just for the IEP bit, does that ever come up?
Yes, and as students get older, often when they talk about their IEPs and building their goals, often students are very involved in that, especially you know, because they'll have a social emotional wellness goal. Sometimes they'll have goals related to their if they're anxious about different things. So often there's a student involvement there, but also in their academic goals, right? Students will say, this is the course that I'm interested in, and sometimes the goal will be maybe look and sound a little bit different than some of their classmates might have in that same area. But yeah, students have a lot more agency around their IEPs as they move up in the years, for sure. Not that a 7-year-old wouldn't have a say. Usually a 7-year-old would be like, I want to have fun and I want to learn. And so the parents and the teachers might construct those goals a little bit more. But yeah, as students move up, they definitely have more say in that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It doesn't look like there's any other questions. I'd just like to make a couple of comments. Chantal had mentioned, Trustee Morvay had asked about putting a link for people. So, sorry, Dawn, but just I looked through it. There is one error in the graduation program under required courses. Okay. You have Math 10 twice. Okay, we'll fix that. Yeah, so it's a Math 10 and a Math 11. Okay. Yeah, and I just also wanted to just add and echo what some of the other trustees have said. You know, while it seems that it would be relatively easy to get 80 credits, for some students it is a really struggle. It's a real struggle to find those 80 credits, and I give credit, no pun intended, to the counselors and teachers that work really diligently to try to find other credits for students so that they can successfully exit their public education journey with a Dogwood. Because the adult Dogwood, as we all know, is the step we take when we realize there's not any other options. So yeah, so thank you very much for the very detailed presentation. Much appreciated. Thanks.
My pleasure.
Okay, so moving on, we have another. I'm going to hand this over to the Deputy Superintendent, Tate.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. I'll just also reflect on comment from the Chair and from Dawn, just to again acknowledge and highlight the innovations that occur at schools to do exactly what Trustee Bailey has said to really look for ways to support kids to get through the graduation program. So I don't want to miss underscoring that, if you will. So as we move on to the second presentation from Learning Services of the evening around our second board goal. So we have been requested by the board to highlight an AP. It's AP 331, Restraint and Seclusion. However, we thought we would provide some context for this AP. And what we've done is we've combined this information with our regular report to the board around the strategic plan. So you're kind of getting 2 items woven into one. So under the goal of safe, caring and healthy learning working environments that are inclusive of the diversity of our entire community, one of Learning Services strategies is to enhance and communicate a district-wide multi-tiered model of support. So that's what we'll report on here this evening. So I'm going to start by providing you a bit of a framework for your understanding that will help to contextualize this AP for you. So I'd like to suggest you consider a continuum of human behavior, really. And I mean all behavior and behavior of adults, youth, and children. In addition, consider this continuum to also include supports. So these supports are as diverse and varied as the behaviors that they support. So on the continuum, you know, sort of on one end of the continuum, you might have quiet and potentially unresponsive behavior, for example. And as we move further along, we might encounter calm and alert and ready to learn kinds of behaviors. And at the other end of this continuum, you may have behaviors that require restraint. For example, so AP 331 helps the system address this need for restraint in a safe and dignified manner. In other words, it supports sort of this far end of the continuum. So it's really important that we understand the AP exists to support a continuum that includes many, many diverse behaviors and supports that go along with those. So nonviolent crisis intervention, NCI, is an approach that teaches sort of before and during intervention strategies to help de-escalate behaviors. NCI is the approach that we use here as our foundational model in this regard, and NCI helps us to support the majority of behaviors on the continuum. So, more specifically, the AP itself provides purpose for itself. It provides definitions of key terms. There's guidelines around physical escort, physical assistance, if you will, guidelines for restraint, and guidelines for seclusion. There's a methods section, a debrief and restorative practices section, and it also outlines details of documenting the use of restraint or seclusion. And that, of course, was in your board agenda package today, so I'm sure you've had a chance to review that or read that in your own time. So to provide further information around this topic of a multi-tiered model of support, I'd like to welcome our Directors of Instruction, Kirsten Funke Robinson and Carrie Steele. Welcome and thank you for being with us here this evening.
Thank you, Deputy Tate. It's my role in this presentation this evening to speak a little bit about some of the underpinnings of our safe, caring and inclusive approach. And of course, in order to actively engage in maintaining both psychological and physical safety for both students and staff, we rely on a couple of key frameworks. Primarily, our work is guided by a compassionate systems leadership framework, and this framework emphasizes the interconnectedness of people and aims to integrate compassion into the everyday work of our K-12 system. There are 3 core elements that underpin this framework, and that is self-leadership, which emphasizes the cultivation of self-reflection and self-awareness. Relational leadership, which emphasizes the building of authentic connections between people, as well as systems work, which really emphasizes the understanding and fostering of connections between the self, others, and the broader system. Here in NLPS, awareness of compassionate systems leadership is fostered through our Managers Learning Series, and strategies continue to be modeled and shared for all managers, principals, and vice principals for their use in their own sites with staff. Our work is further guided by the principles of trauma-informed practice, and this is a framework that's likely familiar to many of you. And the principles of trauma-informed practice require a shared understanding, as well as the use of common language about how we create welcoming, caring, respectful, and safe schools. Trauma-informed practice recognizes that all students benefit from learning environments with qualities that are such as being calm, predictable, and supportive. Trauma-informed approaches emphasize both physical and psychological safety and create opportunities, particularly for children who may not have a sense of control within their lives outside of school. It enables the opportunity to rebuild a sense of control and empowerment for students. Here in NLPS, trauma-informed practice is supported through the guidance of our matrix of evidence-based classroom practices, as well as multiple tiers of increasingly personalized supports. And these come together in Nonviolent Crisis Intervention, or NCI as we call it. And this is the model that we use to operationalize both a compassionate and a trauma-informed response in times of escalation toward crisis. So NCI is based upon the Crisis Prevention Institute's Crisis Development Model, which you see pictured here. And this model recognizes that all behavior is a form of communication. And in addition, the Crisis Development Model offers us a consistent decision-making guide, which provides staff with the opportunity to follow that guide in order to determine the least restrictive means to maintain the care, welfare, safety, and security of both students and staff. You'll see as depicted in the visual here, when we observe specific behaviors in our students, pictured on the left side, we match our actions, pictured on the right side, accordingly. Adult response must be matched to the student's presented need. Movement along levels 1 to 3 represents an escalation of crisis. It's important to note that anxiety behavior at level 1 is already an escalation from a calm and regulated state. Crisis peaks at a level 3 risk behavior. And then when we move into level 4 tension reduction, this really represents a coming down from crisis rather than a continued escalation. And you can see the corresponding adult responses on the right-hand side that we would engage in with each of those types of behavior. And the same continuum applies to both adults and to students. Language that we use is universal and implemented across roles in our staff. Here in NLPS, our NCI training opportunities have substantially increased this year. We've already held trainings for our child youth and family support workers, counselors, inclusion support teachers, principals and vice principals, education assistants, and teachers. We now offer monthly opportunities as well as multiple opportunities on our professional development days. We offer site-specific training opportunities as well as other targeted opportunities when there may be student-specific training that's required to employ NCI. We also have refreshed and reframed our supportive planning templates to create alignment and to take advantage of the use of common language. So this includes some of our supportive planning tools such as integration plans for students who may be having difficulty attending for full days, regulation support plans, employee safety plans, and so on. And this planning process is outlined in a clear supportive planning flowchart that guides school teams to the use of appropriate tools depending on student need. We also have an inclusion outreach team who uses the NCI model as a foundation for supporting school teams to address complex developmental needs, as well as the critically important piece of building staff capacity in the employment of NCI. I'm going to turn things to Director Steele now for an overview of our multi-tiered system of supports and how this overlays our restraint and seclusion AP.
Thank you. So we heard Deputy Tate earlier this evening talking about how all of this is situated in a continuum. I was in a meeting with Kirsten earlier today, and she was talking about the tippy tip of Tier 3 and how some of our interventions get so increasingly personalized and individualized for our kids. So I just want to speak to this multi-tiered system a little bit and how it all kind of fits together. So the foundation of any multi-tiered system of support is Tier 1. And so it begins right from the warm welcome to the classroom in the morning, to the physical environment that our classroom teachers set up, universal classroom activities. We want on-ramps for accessibility for as many learners as much of the time as we can in the classroom. So we know that individualized things are necessary, but we also know that universal things are critical if kids are going to have access to that learning community alongside their peers and feel belonging and success in that environment. When we think about tier 2, some of those are layers that are added directly into classroom environments. Some of them are more individualized things or small group things that happen outside of them. So it might be a personalized visual or a schedule that's provided for a learner. Sometimes in our classes, we actually see visual schedules up for the whole class. There may be a couple of kiddos who really benefit from that as an individualized support, but it helps everybody to know what the class is up to all day. So you know, we look at small group instruction, sometimes in the class, sometimes outside of the class. Sometimes it's structured breaks or just break requests or, you know, on demand as students require them through the day rather than scheduling them. Tools such as specialized seating or fidgets or things that just help them access those opportunities. And then layered onto that is tier 3, which are highly personalized visuals and schedules that might not just be a routine within a classroom, but actually helping a student have access to multiple learning environments in the school. A phrase that a number of our schools are using now is they have students of the school. So somebody's day is built in a way that lets them get environments to multiple classroom settings or to the library or a support room for part of the day or something like that. But they are served by many people on the staff. Small group instruction, again, that can still be tier 3, but sometimes the strategies and interventions are highly specialized that we're coaching in those settings. You know, some of our children in the Skills for Life environments, for example, or who are receiving functional curriculum at the elementary level. So tier 2 and tier 3, sometimes the list looks the same, but it's the way that we utilize these things or the frequency with which we utilize these things. Really, it's important to consider all of the support across the continuum, because what we know is that when students are having their developmental needs met and when they have access to the appropriate tools and interventions and adult support that they require, we don't need things like restraints nearly as often because kids are having their needs met, they're engaging with their learning, they're navigating the school safely and successfully. But you know, it is difficult to always mitigate those level 3 behaviors. Things happen that are stressful for kids or just beyond their capacity occasionally. And we really need a way to support them and to know how to intervene in a really safe and successful way. So as was mentioned earlier, the AP does have provisions for things like physical escort and guidance. For example, we know that some of our learners, if they're transitioning down the hallway, a gentle hand on the back of a shoulder is really reassuring and calming for them. And if we ask them to do that transition by themselves, they are going to feel less comfortable, and we may see an increase in anxiety and risk behaviors because of it. A calm hand on a shoulder is just enough that they know the adult's there if they're needed and they're okay to get between the spaces they need to go. There are some other things like, you know, sometimes we'll take a child's hand or we use a transition tool. We get them to carry a preferred object down the hallway with them to help them transition. Where we're looking at something that's a little bit more restrictive, where we might, you know, we have some children where we might have a hand on the shoulder, but we might also kind of cup their arm and their wrist as they're moving down the hallway because we really need to support them safely. If we're looking at some of those, again, on the continuum of restrictiveness, those are more restrictive than letting a child go on their own. We would be working with an occupational therapist or physiotherapist in consultation to make sure that not only are we utilizing an appropriate level of intervention, but also the staff has the capacity building and support that they need to do that safely for themselves and the student. We also have a requirement that parents are involved in that. So if we are utilizing that type of approach with a student, you know, one of the revisions to this AP requires that a really meaningful level of consultation happens so families are well aware of what we're doing and why. And if they have other interventions and things they're using at home, we have an opportunity to talk about that so that we're supporting things in a way that's safe for everybody. Our overarching goal is always to mitigate the need for things like restraint and seclusion, but the language that's in our AP is drawn from evidence-based practices. It's aligned with the NCI principles that Director Funke Robinson described to you earlier, and it's also in keeping with the ministry direction around expectations. We are required to have this kind of an AP because in the eventuality these strategies are needed, we need both a way to know how to do them safely and also a way to monitor them at the district level and just make sure that we understand when they're being used and why, and where there may be a need for additional capacity building or support for our staff. I think that, you know, proactive planning and data collection really helps inform our practices in this regard. It's more than just consultation and writing strategies into plans. We have really robust mechanisms for observation and data collection. Again, this is ongoing work. So we have a tool that was released as recently as 2 weeks ago that we're encouraging our principals and vice principals, inclusion support teachers, counselors to be using. It is data collection arranged around both the personalized opportunities we're providing for kids and the observable behaviors at level 1, 2, and 3 that we see, so that we can find the moments of success and build on them and put additional supports and mitigating strategies in place for the things that are going to be potentially more risky for the students. We also, complex students do require highly individualized support. So we try to approach this 2 ways. We have, just like we have universal opportunities for our kids and really highly individualized opportunities for our kids, we're trying to do the same for our staff as well. So we provide generalized NCI training. It's a 6-hour course. So when we offer it on a Pro D Day, it's offered globally. We provide more universal foundation in terms of the understanding of the principles and things. We have school staffs that have looked to wrap around kids as a collective, but they have maybe a cohort of students or a particular dynamic in their building that they're really wanting to support. We've done school-wide support for that. When it comes to individual kids, we have some students who, you know, when we look at their complex diagnostic profile, their learning profile, they are highly individualized needs that really we have to attend to the nuance of the recommendations that have been provided by medical doctors or, you know, our BC assessment network for many of our kids with autism or fetal alcohol syndrome disorder, for example. There are really specific individual recommendations that come in. So we use those reports and those recommendations, and we lean on our specialists to provide additional support and capacity building for school teams. So sometimes that's our inclusion outreach team. That team has some experienced teachers, like inclusion support teachers. There's a counselor on that team. There's an occupational therapist as a part of that team. So we already have quite a bit of expertise there, and we definitely do student-specific coaching and training through them. They also lean on their broader network quite often. So we have our provincial resource programs for, you know, POPARD is for autism-related disorders. We have POPFAST for students with FASD. We have outreach programs for deaf-blind students, for students with visual impairments. So where our specialist teachers and the outreach team in district feel they'd like extra layers of support or would like to utilize those provincial resources to help build capacity, we bring them in as well. So there's lots of layers that allow us to do really student-specific training. And I think that's really key. Tier 1 is universal, but by the tippy tip of Tier 3, we are looking at things that maybe only 1 or 2 learners in our district will need for support. So we have to be really thoughtful about how and where we're implementing those things and work really closely with families and with their broader teams. You know, we often have a structure we call an integrated case management meeting, and sometimes there's 11 or 12 people sitting at that table. It's the parent and behavior interventionist and our speech path and the family's private speech therapist, somebody from our school age therapy team, and perhaps a private therapist that's working with the family outside of school. It's really important to get as many heads to the table as we can for our most complex kids and make sure that we're really wrapping around. So all of that is to say NCI and compassionate approaches meet multi-tiered systems of support, and we just personalize along a continuum as much as our kids require so that we can support them. So that's our last slide. So I think I'll stop sharing the screen now, and then if folks have questions, I know we're all here to answer them.
Okay, thank you very much. I do have a speakers list. Jessica Krog-Irving, you are on the list first.
Sorry, I thought Chantel was first, but if she's fine with it, I'll cue jump. I just had a question about, so you mentioned there are so many different opportunities for staff to have learning and training. I'm just kind of curious what the buy-in is for that. Again, perfect world, you have 100 spaces, you have 100 teachers, ECEs, whatever, show up for those spaces. That's not generally how it shakes down when DPAC hosts events. Just kind of wondering roughly how many people are showing up per training opportunity?
We're filling them. It's actually, we're really, really excited about the uptick on us. I think because we've rebuilt so many of our personalized plans around these NCI principles, and people see kids with really complex needs really doing well when they've got the right support and constellation of services around them. And, you know, we just did one this week for principals and vice principals that was offered after their workday ended. And we had 21 people get certified this week, and we've already got a full subscription for the April session. We have sessions for 40 people offered to EAs and teachers and any of the support staff that want to come on February 6th and 7th. We have 40 people signed up for each of those. We have a Pop Art session around supporting kids with autism happening on the February 6th Pro D Day. And that's a day that our CUPE support staff can choose to come, or they can choose a vacation day or a day without pay. And we have 56 people signed up for that session, and another 50 signed up with the Inclusion Outreach team. So it's it feels good to do good things for kids, right? So people are really happy. Yeah, it's I'm proud of them. It's wonderful.
That really warms my heart. Thank you so much.
Do you have a follow-up, Jessica? No. Okay. Next up on the list is Chantel. Trustee Morvay.
Great. Just to clarify, Jessica, you were first, so it's all good. Thank you so much for this. I want to say that this is really great information for families who will be watching this to understand kind of what this is all about. I know that, you know, families that intersect with this, it is very, that's a good word, stressful. It's very stressful. And to know what the district plans are, how they're working through this, helps folks understand better what is happening in our district regarding kids with disabilities. And I really appreciate this information that you've given us tonight and all the hard work you're doing in training and getting those wraparound services provided for our kids. I mean, you know, for many years we've had, it's been hard to kind of build all this up, and I see this building and it's really great to see. I really appreciate all this hard work. It's something that I really respect and I appreciate. I did have a question, and it was about the integration plan that was mentioned and I'm sorry, I don't remember who it was that spoke about this. I just like to dig in a little bit more about the integration plan. How do families provide input into these plans? How does that kind of look?
Are you okay to jump in, Carrie?
Yeah, sure. So integration plans are something we've put a ton of work into the last few years, because we know that it's confusing for parents, and it's, you know, it can be distressing when you get a call saying that we're feeling that your child's not yet ready for a full day at school, and we need to do some work together to support that. So one of the things that we did a couple of years ago is we took a look at our template for the integration plan, and we've made a thing we call a user guide that goes with it to schools. And it has, it's intended for principals to guide the conversation at the school, to ensure we look at lots of stuff, that we are collecting robust data, which we're adding to all the time, our data collection skills and understanding of that mechanism, so that parents see the data and have the information that informed the decision and the reasoning behind the request. We require that parents are at the table when the plans are made, and that we go through that data with them, that we have a comprehensive communication plan so they know when they're going to get updates and what those updates are going to entail. Some families prefer to meet in person, other families prefer maybe an email or a phone call or a combination. So we work with families to try to determine what that's going to look like. If their children are not going to be at school full time, what is it that we're offering as opportunities for the time that they're not at school? Again, for some kids, it's about their stamina level in school, and families don't always want things for the other piece of the day. Some of the kids, what they need is actually a rest and to disconnect from the world of school for a little bit. For other kids, it's entirely appropriate for them to have some materials at home and some things to work on. So we just try to really stay in conversation with families. It is important sometimes, though, if we have data and evidence showing us that we're seeing ongoing level 3 behaviors and it's posing a risk to the child or to others in the environment, we have to do something to support that and help them build the skills and capacities they need to be at school safely and have the stamina. But we also know supporting a student is one piece of the story for sure, but the other piece is sometimes we need to know the kids better. We need some time to understand them and their needs and the antecedents or settings that can lead to escalations and things that are difficult. And we're seeing more and more as we've developed this process and developed our NCI skills, developed our observational skills, that many of the plans are of shorter duration than they used to be. We are able to increase time more quickly. But sometimes we just need it to be a little bit of a shortened time so we can really understand the learner and preserve their dignity and their success for the period of time they're at school. Parents should always be a partner in that, though. We should always have more than a moment. We should have an ongoing communication structure with them so we make sure they're at the table and are understanding and part of doing.
Thank you.
You have a follow-up, Chantel, or?
Not right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up is Jeremy.
Thank you to the directors and the Department of Learning Services for preparing this very thorough and thoughtful document. There's a lot in here, and it moves things forward in a great direction with a really obvious, detailed plan to have a plan. My question really comes around. How do we plan for the unpredictable and unexpected? Student behavior often can be just that. And when we're, in those moments of unexpected behaviors, how does this document support educators in supporting students when we don't have we have to wear the antecedents and the settings that create the behaviors that might lead to using some of these tools or not using some of these tools, and that's a real concern. I mean, some of you are well aware there's been a history of this document being in conflict with what's gone on in classrooms and in schools and led to challenges. So I want to be able to make sure that the tools to support. So I guess my question really is, how does it help teachers, educators deal with those moments, and also some reassurance that it won't be used for discipline, honestly, when within reason teachers don't follow this plan because they weren't prepared for that situation. And some of those situations might be like we're talking about the physical guidance, the hand on the shoulder, the holding a student's hand. If there wasn't a plan to do that because we haven't seen a need for that, but it appears appropriate, or a student comes crashing around a corner and runs into you, and you give them a bear hug to protect yourself and protect them, is that restraint and seclusion? I'm looking for reassurance that this isn't a document that is going to be used for discipline. It's a document used for support. Thank you.
So did you have a couple of questions there, or was it that last one mostly? Originally you started with something, how does this document help teachers be prepared? And then
Yeah, being prepared for the unpredictable, right? And reassurance that it's not going to be used for discipline.
Okay, so that's two parts. I'm going to look to Carrie and Kirsten here. So we're looking at, how does it help teachers be prepared for the unexpected? Potentially, we look at being proactive, and then looking at kind of reassurance around it's supporting teachers versus using it as a tool to discipline, if you will.
I don't mind starting off, particularly with the aid in helping teachers prepare. And so that's really that decision-making guide. And it's been really gratifying working with staff this year, particularly around folks who've maybe even taken the NCI training before and had a cursory understanding of it, but really digging into it and refreshing their understanding. And I think it's important to note that curriculum has been refreshed as well to really be more all-encompassing. And so some of those things that I talked about, those pieces around trauma-informed practice, for example, and so drawing the connection for staff around what it means to be able to, as you said, exactly, we're going to encounter unexpected behaviors at times. And so to really come to those situations with a sense of curiosity. And so to be able to take a pause instead of an immediate reaction to, what might it be that has caused that behavior, and remembering that behavior is communication. So if I'm observing this level of behavior, and how would I characterize that level of behavior? What should my response be? That may be a little bit separate from the AP piece.
I think though the AP, so one of the things we did when we worked on the revisions of the AP is we, and when I say we, I'm talking about myself with our NCI trainers. And I also, Will Dirksen, before he left the district, was not only one of our NCI trainers, but of course he was also our health and safety officer. And so he had that whole lens around WorkSafe and the violence reporting mechanism in the district and an understanding of all of those pieces. So we brought all of that information together and took a look at it. And there's a couple of pieces that are really important. I think one is that there's definitely a perception in our system that, I hear the phrase, we are a hands-off district. We aren't actually a hands-off district. We are a district that uses restraint and seclusion appropriately according to ministry guidelines, which means that things like physical guidance or redirection are, perfectly appropriate and necessary interventions and supports at times. So I think we have to make sure that staff understand they are allowed to utilize appropriate interventions where they're necessary. That keeps them safer, it keeps kids safer, and it prevents some of the unpredictable things from happening because anxiety levels are lower for everybody. I think another big piece is the redesign of NCI. NCI's always had lots of stuff about being proactive in it, but the foundational pieces have really been enhanced. So one of the things that the early modules of the training really emphasize now is you don't actually have to know the individualized student plan or the individualized interventions in the moment of an escalation in order to keep yourself safe, in order to keep the students safe. Because some things like there's a thing called a supportive stance where you kind of stand back and you're not, directly on a student, but you're kind of leaning to the side a bit so they feel they have a bit of a space, that we would never block an exit or, you'd step aside and let the student go unless they're going to run into the street. Immediate substantial harm doesn't mean flipping a desk in a classroom or ripping things off a wall in a classroom. Those are distressing moments. They're not going to lead to an individual experiencing immediate or substantial harm. So we coach staff about how do you keep yourself safe? How do you stand back in these moments? And know that, there are people who are trained in the child's individualized plan in your school. And so we have a response protocol that says, here's what you do when you don't know all of the pieces. Here's what you do when you're part of that child specific team and what you're supposed to do. So I'm hoping that that's relatively new conversation in the system still. We're working on, that's the dialogue we're having when we do the school specific trainings and the broader trainings now. So I'm hoping it reassures people a little bit that they have a plan for the unexpected that maybe wasn't as accessible to us prior to this redesign. But the other piece is, Jeremy, you're 100% right. Like people will come around corners and bump into things or be in a classroom and suddenly, something erupts right beside them that they don't have control over. We have designed, NCI has a thing they call the coping model, which is a debriefing structure that we use post-event. And the debrief and the restraint and seclusion documentation that's provided, the information that we're putting on the violent incident reports, there's a mechanism to debrief that and take a look at it. So if we know that something totally unexpected happened and it was completely out of the staff person's control, that they did the best they had with the tools available to them in the minute, that isn't going to lead to discipline. It likely will lead to some capacity building and some support and probably a wellness check to make sure they're okay, because it's pretty distressing when those things happen and we want to, care for our staff. But unless they did something really egregious, I can't imagine that would turn into a discipline situation. Our goal is to support everybody and to coach them. So, unless there was a really significant error in judgment that needed to be unpacked, it would be a coaching situation and we would provide additional training or something if it was necessary.
Jeremy, do you have a follow-up?
No, other than to say thanks. That really is a concern. There has been that notion of a hands-off district, and any hands-on becomes potential discipline. And so, what I'm hearing is that this is a very valuable tool for everybody to have. And if there's some way to find some in-service to get the basics, as is helpful for everybody. And just like the tier 1, 2, 3 interventions, some people need more. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Tom, Trustee Rokeby.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, and thank you very much for your presentation. I really appreciate your efforts in this area. I don't want to take up a lot of time. We've had a lot of really good questions. I've been in the district for a long time, and I've been hearing the term NCI float around for a long time. I never had the opportunity to take the training, and it was probably vernacular in my career for better part of a decade. I know people that have had the training a couple times. I know people that haven't had the training at all. And I'm kind of concerned about that given how integral it seems to be to the safety and welfare of our students and our staff. Especially, I'm really concerned with President Isko bringing up discipline concerns, even just the optics of concerns by our staff about what to do in a situation where they haven't been trained. So why is this still a voluntary measure? Why is this something that we're expecting Pro-D time to cover? And can we do better than that? Yeah, thank you.
We could do better for sure. At this stage, we have when we do offer this training, it's specific to plans, it's specific to requests, it's specific to occurrences and situations that are happening at schools, and these sessions fill up, as I believe the directors have mentioned, some of these training opportunities and the teams, and we have very limited resources in terms of providing this training, and we're trying to build that for certain. Right now at capacity, we're offering it as often as we can, trying to keep in mind there are a lot of things in the system that folks have the opportunity to attend. We've got to be very conscious of our failures to fill and things like that. So we're trying to find a really, really good balance. At the moment, we are full capacity with whenever we do offer this as an opportunity, but absolutely, we could certainly look at beefing that up a bit.
I'd just like to add too that actually we're offering more training not on Pro-D days than we are on Pro-D days right now. We have regularly have, like you're right, failure to fill is a concern, but we certainly have had coverage at schools for EAs, classroom teachers. Sometimes ISTs have covered classrooms to allow classroom teachers to participate in it. We have, there's a fund for EAs, so we are able to release EAs to participate when we're able to cover them, which isn't often. But having our new our third trainer is offering it monthly on a school day, so it's not being held only on Pro-D days anymore. Because I agree, we need to get it out as far and wide as we can.
Absolutely.
I'd just like to add to that too. I think because I echo, some of the concerns about having access to it. And so another couple of the strategies that we have going now this year, which are new, is that we have one of our trainers creating a series of videos for the first 4 modules, so that those will be opportunities to be learning the NCI modules on demand. And in addition, we also have opportunities for schools to be for trainers to be able to come in and give an overview that may not be the full complement of all of the modules at one time, but at least gives a chance for staff to have access to the overview of the models and the basics of the decision-making model, so that we're trying to provide that access in a variety of different ways as well. Yeah.
I just got to say, I'm really appreciative of that final idea about the video series. I think given how hard our staff work and how much I want them to have a work-life balance, just the idea of expecting to be in a time and a place to get information it's becoming a little bit dated. So thank you very much for that initiative, and I look forward to getting a chance to finally see my videos.
Thank you. Okay, I just have one question, and mine is in regards to, it's such a complex teaching, supporting students world right now, and my thought went right away to TTOCs coming into a classroom where there's a student plan, and how are TTOCs prepared for this kind of work environment?
I don't mind sharing as well. So again, this is part of some of the innovative strategies that we're creating to be able to get the training and the access and awareness out there to all staff. So as a part of the production of the videos, our hope too is that we can make these a part of an onboarding process, and we're working with HR to operationalize that right now. Because I agree with you, it would be an ideal scenario to be able to get all of our new staff coming in to have that awareness. And we have looked to another district that we're aware of that has piloted a similar approach, and we have been in consult with them to try to figure out how to make that work for us too. I agree, it's really important.
Thank you very much. It doesn't look like there's any other questions, so I think we'll move on to our next item, which is 8.2. And once again, Deputy Superintendent Tate, research in schools.
Thank you, Chair. I feel like I've never had my camera on so long in a board meeting before. What we do have, though, Chair, are our 2 school presentations on the goals. Or if we're able to move to that, I'll turn it over to Dawn to introduce the schools, if that's all right.
It's my great privilege. We have 2 presentations tonight. We have École Courtaway, and then we have Island Connect Ed. So I'm going to introduce the principal of École Courtaway, Madame Caquet, and then Arlette will come on and she will introduce the team that's presenting. And I see that they're already sharing the screen, so I will turn it over to them.
Thank you, Dan. My name is Arlette Caquet, and I am the principal of Courtaway School. It's an honor for me to be here. I'm meeting with you on the territory of the Snuneymuxw people here at Courtaway School. I'm just going to present my school a little bit before introducing my team. So Courtaway School is an elementary school. It's situated on the traditional and unsafe territory of Snuneymuxw people. Courtaway Elementary serves a wide, culturally diverse population with a diverse socio-economic population in an urban area with a student population of 408 students, divided in 18 divisions. Courtaway Elementary is a single-track French immersion. We are the only school in the district with a late French immersion entry. This unique late French immersion entry program is offered and open to all grades 6 and 7 in our school district. Our students here in Courtaway are involved in learning in all areas. This is academic, fine art, music, physical, and emotional well-being. In our school, students are involved in a variety of sports, such as cross-country, track and field, volleyball, etc. Our teaching staff plan a lot of outdoor learning and many field trips to enhance teaching and learning. Students focus on being safe, responsible, and respectful. As my grandmother used to say, it takes a village to really raise a child. Since the beginning of this presentation, I saw the value of what she was saying, the learning services, the path to the graduation, and also the self-regulation program that we were talking earlier with Carrie Still. And I am so proud to be part of the NLPS 68 village and community of leaders who support students in a variety of ways. So in my school tonight, I have with me Madame Sandy, our youth worker, Madame Rundell, our IST, Madame Patty, our school counselor, and Madame Clark, who is our VP and also our grade 7. The presentation tonight is to share with you some of beautiful things we are doing around safe and caring school. Now, I'm going to start with Madame Patty, I think, to you, Patty.
I'll just let everybody read this. So our goal that we're talking about right now is to create and foster a safe, caring, and healthy learning and working environment that is inclusive of diversity of our entire learning community. So let me just find my little words here. So Danielle, did you want to go to that first? There you go, that slide. Here we go. To begin, we observe, what are we doing at Courtaway that's creating a safe, caring, and healthy learning and working environment for all? Well, upon initial observation, our SBT is unique. We form a collective working and lived experience from over 10 diverse countries. This distinctive shared experience most definitely enriches how we work at Courtaway. We observe as naturally as being present around the school, conversations with teachers, student voice, information shared from parents, and many other means. We then reflect, and this may look like triage, and then plan using our weekly SBT meetings, bi-monthly team meetings, class reviews, a range of data collection tools based on student needs, all the while with a focus on proactive, intentional interventions. As we plan and then act, we are an all hands on deck type of team where when it comes to social emotional learning, we all equally tie up our SEL capes and fly into a classroom with our co-regulation toolboxes. Because we all make ourselves present in the classrooms weekly, students have relationships with us and us with them, which brings a sense of calm and belonging to our building. Lastly, we also extend this cyclical support model with colleagues because if we are to foster a sense of supportive belonging for our students, we need to extend that same sense of supportive belonging with our colleagues. In summary, École Quarterway supports students with mental differences, academic challenges, varied economic situations, and social emotional needs as any school in our district supports. Our collective and collaborative system makes me feel very proud of the work we do. Thanks.
Thank you, Patty. Next is our youth worker, Sandy.
Hi. So as the CYFSW, I work across 2 schools, but I offer a range of interventions that are designed to meet the needs of our students and help them build the skills that they need to navigate their life successfully, and also to give them a sense of belonging within our school community. Several of them are listed here, but I'm going to want to speak a bit further about 2 of these, Rainbows and social justice. So the Rainbows program is a peer support program for children who've experienced separation, divorce, loss, or another painful transition within their family. It's a structured program that runs for about 12 weeks, and each week we explore a different topic, and each student, and these are outlined on the slide, and each student has an opportunity to consider what this topic might mean for them. Although I'm the facilitator, as it is a peer-based approach, each student begins to recognize they are not alone with some of the challenges and emotions they experience, and they begin to learn from each other and create a sense of belonging. Currently, I'm offering 5 groups, so that means about 35 students are receiving support in this way, and very much demonstrates the need in this area. So next, I'm going to move to social justice. Thank you. So with the social justice program, it's delivered to grade 7s and at times some grade 6 students. And it's got 2 approaches. One is the class-based learning. And the key aim of the class-based learning is to facilitate students' understanding of the key concepts that underpin social justice. I deliver about 8 to 10 sessions for the students, and they begin to explore how these concepts relate to their lives, the school community, and the broader community. We finished the program with a human library, which is an approach developed in Denmark, and students are in conversation with a range of speakers who are able to share experiences and answer questions from their perspectives. This creates a powerful and meaningful opportunities for students to understand the experiences of others and how power, privilege, equity, and diversity influence those experiences. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Next is a reflection from our IST teacher, Deborah.
Hello, my name is Deborah Rundell. I'm the inclusion support teacher at École Quarterway. My role, while it is primarily academic support for students, I also make sure to prioritize time for collaboration with teachers to implement universal design for learning in their classrooms. So that would create those on-ramps that Carrie Steele was talking about earlier that provides access points for all students to be able to access the curriculum in their classrooms. Another important part of my role is collaborating with our counselor, Patty, and our CYFSW, Sandy, and both the admin at our school, as well as teachers, because we truly believe that students, their emotional and mental health needs have to be met before they can feel safe enough at school to be able to learn how to read and write and access those academic skills. We work really collaboratively at Quarterway to wrap around our students and make sure their needs are being met from all sides.
Thank you, Deborah. Our next is our VP, but we is also our grade 7 teacher. Over to you, Clark.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. So I am Danielle Ashford Clark. I'm the VP and grade 7 teacher here at École Courtois. And something a little bit unique and different this year that we'd like to share with you is we've taken a new approach to our assemblies. And it's something that we do each month, but rather than having the adults lead the assemblies, we're actually having the students lead a lot of it. And a way that we're encouraging inclusion and diversity is we have a teacher now who is doing Indigenous drumming to welcome the classes in, followed by our student leaders who read the land acknowledgement in both French and English. And we are currently working on how to say this in Hulkaminam as well. Last month, we had our Black Excellence Assembly, and it was just great. And our grade 7 students led a short PowerPoint highlighting the amazing work done by various African Canadian civil rights activists. And then we asked Madame Kake to close the assembly. They did a fabulous job leading it. Once our assemblies are finished, chosen by students, they play a song to lead everybody out of the gym by dancing. Something that we always keep in mind as well is our late French immersion students who come to us from all over the district from English schools and are with us for only 2 short years. So it's really very important for us to really welcome them, create a sense of belonging and safety. And having them feel like they have a lead role in our gathering gives them a sense of place in their new school. And we hope that that fosters their way all the way into secondary, because they blend right into the French immersion courses at ND, which is their feeder school. This new approach of having assemblies has really brought us back from the disconnect of 2020 and has really given students a time to shine by being the whole focus of our monthly gatherings. And then so it works. There we go. And to close, we'd like to share with you a few pictures that highlight some small moments we do to create an inclusive, safe, and caring school for our students, teachers, parents, and community. And I'd just like to thank everyone for your time and allowing us to share a small window into our school, École Courtois. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Are we going to carry on with the next presentation and then we'll do questions?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
All right.
Okay, so I'm happy to introduce Justin Mark, principal at Island Connect Ed, and he's going to take over the screen, start sharing, and introduce his team.
Mike Squale, good evening, everyone. N2Pay Justin Mark, and I'm very excited to be here with you. I just wanted to shout out to my colleagues at Courtois. I am a proud parent of a student at Courtois, and I can echo the wonderful things that they're doing. My children both love their time at Courtois, and so thanks everyone, and thanks everyone for the wonderful presentation so far. So we're just going to share a screen here. Dawn, are we able to see the first slide?
Yep, you're good to go, Justin.
Fantastic. Okay, so this is our team presenting tonight. Lindsay Watford, our vice principal, and I just wanted to share a quick story, and it sort of feeds into a little bit about our theme for this evening. So before I worked at Island Connect as a principal, and this is my 3rd year. I was the instructor at VIU in the online learning department, and Lindsay, on her pathway to becoming a vice principal at Island Connect Ed, was a student in the program, and that's how we first met. And Lindsay's story is it's a very unique one. She started off as a parent of Island Connect Ed, or previously Learn at Home. I had 2 children go through the program, was the PAC chair, I believe, a teacher there, a coordinator, and now a vice principal. And it speaks to the passion and the understanding of the students and our very unique student body and our role in the district. Andrea Lage is a grade 10-12 teacher. She's been with Island Connect Ed and I think Learn at Home for many years, 5 or 6 years. And Josh Gillingham is new to us this year, although he worked with us during the pandemic. Andrea and Josh share an amazing passion for not only ed technology, and I think their paths crossed many years ago during their masters in ed technology, but they're also both aspiring or talented writers in their own time. And so it's just it's always just, I always want a little background and sort of paint a little bit of a story for just the passion that our staff and our team brings to presentation tonight to our school and to our students. So we're here tonight to speak to you about safe, caring, healthy learning working environment that's inclusive, diversity of the entire learning community. And we feel that the Island Connect Ed, we bring a unique perspective to this. So online learning at its core is fantastic. I mean, you could do all of your learning without ever leaving your bedroom, theoretically. And it works amazingly for students who are highly motivated, very good at organizing their time. Again, you could flexibly have control over the time, pace, and all aspects. It's like Netflix versus watching cable TV. Unfortunately, not all our students fit into that category, as we well know, and it's something that we, Island Connect Ed as a district online learning school, we understand that, and we understand who our learners are, and so our staff has spent a bit of time and exercise to develop what our core values are. And that is building community, engagement, and curiosity. And we want to bring more. We feel that by developing community and offering face-to-face opportunities and building community, that we can enrich the online learning part of our school. So just a bit of a background. I know some people are familiar with Island Connect Ed, but I know there's some new trustees as well. So our school offers a full-time K-12, and so students and families who are looking for a different way of learning can be a full-time Island Connect Ed family. We have dual enroll, and these students are our grade 10, 11, 12 students who their primary schools are at the secondary schools, and they can take 1 or 2 courses to sort of supplement on their path to graduation. And we have adult learners, both non-graduated and graduated learners. So at this time, I'm going to move to introduce Lindsay Watford, our vice principal, and have her speak a little bit about the uniqueness of our K-7 program. Lindsay?
Lindsay, I think you're still muted.
Whoops. Okay, I'll start again. Thank you. So although really my main focus here is to talk about K-7, what you'll find here is everything I talk about really is inclusive of our K-12 community. So we know that all schools in Nanaimo Ladysmith, they all have a diverse community. And so what I want to show you tonight is a little bit of what makes ICE unique. I'm going to talk about 2 different groups. The first is our students that are struggling with really high levels of anxiety. And we have a lot of students that are in our whole district. And the second is I'll touch really briefly on our long-term homeschool families that really come to us because they want more engagement and connection with their child's schooling. So we recognize that all schools are struggling with high anxiety with their students. But what makes ICE different is that we really are the popular choice for families that after they've tried everything at their brick and mortar school and they've kind of run out of ideas that they come to us. And a context here for numbers is that in the last 2 weeks alone, we've had 7 students from the Nanaimo Ladysmith district. They've come to join the K-7 program. And this is due to absolute crippling anxiety and not being able to attend school. So, and sometimes this has gone on for years. And so really for these families, we're like a lifeline to keep the learning going at home and to provide some connection to a school. And, you know, on a personal note, as I speak to these parents and I hear their stories, I can really connect to their feeling of hopelessness. I myself have had a child with high anxiety, and no matter what, like we tried everything at our brick and mortar school to make it work for her. But it became really clear that her inclusion path was different than other students. And so that's what we went with. And for her, ICE was the only place she felt safe enough to attend on-site schooling, you know, and consequently, that's where she could build the necessary social and emotional life skills. So we know with our anxious children, they want to stay home, but we need to offer them something different to try to get them. And, you know, I asked my daughter tonight what made ICE safe for her. And she said it right away. She said, Mom, the key was that ICE is quiet, it's calm, there's less people, there's no class schedule, you can come and go when you need, there's no bell system. It was just right. And I, as a parent, am always thankful for that. So with our group, like with our K-7, to encourage our kids to get to come to school, what I usually suggest to parents is start with a club. And we have, the key really to clubs is that it's an interest or a passion, and it's going to get their curiosity. So like for this session, just to give you an idea, some of our clubs are 3D printing, sports and guitar. We've got cartoon sketching, Indigenous beading and sign language. And so what I say is pick one club and just try it out. And so the positives here are that, you know, it's easier to build a connection with other students with a similar interest. And our clubs are multi-graded so that students have the opportunity of meeting friends in other classes. And then there's that really important part where you can meet a new teacher and it gives them those 2 adults that they can trust in the school. Another kind of cool way we can get them connected is that our PAC offers ice skating every Thursday afternoon. So the key here is that it's off-site and they're able to go somewhere that's not a school. It's free. It's for the whole family, and then they get that connection with peers and it hooks them and it brings them back to their school. So, and I should say here, the goal here with our kids with high anxiety, what we're trying to do is we're trying to reconnect them and build strategies and confidence and then return them to their catchment school. And that really is our ultimate goal, unless of course they're choosing to stay and no matter what, we're just there to support the kids. You know, with our homeschool families, it's a little bit different. They come in, they're naturally curious and engaged learners, and they take advantage of all the programs that we have. For them, the inclusion comes in as we work really closely and we build partnerships with the families. Justin, next slide. For our grade 8-9 program, what it does is it acts as a bridge between our K-7 and our 10-12 program. So how this looks is a little bit different. It's a 2-teacher cohort. We offer weekly on-site classes. For these kids, they can drop in when they want. They can still come to clubs, but we also offer other activities that support and build connection and engagement and community. And next slide, please. For our grade 10, 11, 12, it's a little bit more multifaceted, and I believe Drea is going to take over.
Thank you, Lindsay. I'm going to be speaking about the dual enrolled program and how it's a little bit different than what we offer for our full-timers. So there are 4 embedded rooms that are staffed by Island Connect Ed teachers and a CT. A CT or computer tutor is the main point of contact for students. They liaise with counselors and families to help students complete their courses. The teachers provide course-specific instruction and direct support to students across all ICE courses. Hundreds of students take 1 or more courses through our embedded rooms each year. Students may be assigned there due to a course availability or for credit recovery, but often they were returning to after completing their first course, having found success with this mode of learning and in our quiet, calm spaces. For example, a student wasn't able to get into a CLE at her school because it was full, so she was assigned to an embedded room. The CT welcomed her and helped her register. As the CLE teacher was embedded at her school, she completed the course at her own pace and then signed up for English 11 with me. I supported her throughout the online course, providing feedback both in person and via Canvas. After completing English, she signed up for another 2 courses so that she could complete her academic requirements before starting the CTC program. The welcoming, flexible, and supportive environment cultivated through these positive interactions encourages students to be successful, which allows them to reach their goals. That is our dual enrolled program, and Josh is going to speak about the grade 10 to 12 full-timers.
Thanks so much, Drea. Appreciate that. I'll explain my role a little bit as it's fairly unique within the school. So I'm the coordinator. I teach some of the grade 6 program. I help with grad planning, and also I'm teaching some of the high school courses. So I get a unique view of the school right, face to face with students in the classroom, all the way from K to 7 through my work with clubs, through 8, 9, and then 10 to 12. And I'll speak mostly to the high school program. One of the most common questions I get from parents is, what do you do at Island Connect Ed? And we operate a little bit differently, as Justin, Lindsay, and Dre have already highlighted. The biggest piece that's different from Island Connect Ed from what we call a brick and mortar or a traditional school setting is that students have control over the pace, place, and path that they take to meet their learning needs. So when a student's interested in coming to Island Connect Ed, they meet with myself or our principal, Justin Mark, and we create a learning plan for them. These learning plans are much more unique than a student who is attending a brick and mortar school might have, just because they're coming to us from different situations. They might be trying to finish up courses from the school that they're coming to. They might be coming out of catchment. They might also be looking for credits from other places, like external credentials. So we sit down, we create a unique learning plan, and then we figure out a plan to help them meet those goals. And that enrollment can happen anytime. We're a continuously enrolling school. That means that students can enroll anytime throughout the year, except for holidays, obviously, when staff are not here, but we work throughout the summer. We actually have several hundred students every summer enrolling for summer courses, and then both our dual enrolled, our full-time students, and adult students are enrolling in our high school all the way throughout the year. And so that's just a bit of an overview of how our high school works. One of the topics I really want to talk about tonight, and one thing that I see in these face-to-face meetings when we're discussing their learning plan, talking about their learning goals, talking about what it's going to take to get them to graduation, is just the endemic levels of anxiety. I think everybody who is involved in schooling right now, who is a parent of a child who's in school, is recognizing we're really in a bit of an anxiety crisis right now, which was spawned by many different things. The process of going through school is a anxiety-inducing experience to begin with. I think COVID, there was a lot of stress and a lot of pressure, but it also took away a lot of our opportunities for students, especially students now in 10, 11, 12, who at the time were in 7, 8, 9, 10. It took away a lot of opportunities for them to practice, sort of trying new things and building up those skills and that resiliency to be able to deal with the challenges of coming to the school. And when I talk about anxiety, it's a spectrum, there's a whole range, but just to give you a sense of the intensity of the challenge that some of these students are facing and these families are facing, I can think of multiple students last semester where one of the goals for the semester was for them to be comfortable to drive up to the school, get out of the vehicle, walk through the front doors of our school, and sit in my office, which is the first door on the left, and it's got nice big windows. And I'm happy to say that the students that we worked on with that succeeded. Some it took a few days, some it took a few weeks. For some, it was a bit of a longer process, but that's the level of anxiety they're feeling. And I think this was touched upon before, but just we're uniquely situated in the district to support these students. I think, especially at this time, partly because of the setup of our school. It's much quieter. We have students working in separate rooms. Even the structure of the rooms and how they're set up allow students to sort of work at their own tables or work in small groups if they like. There's not a big busy atrium as students walk in. And so yeah, in terms of making things inclusive, for a lot of those students, the brick and mortar is just not working. They don't feel safe. They don't feel comfortable. They can't feel like they can engage in learning on those sites. And so we're able to really provide that for them. I'm going to leave that there and pass it back to Justin Mark, but I just want to emphasize that I think Island Connected is serving a really unique role within the district to address that anxiety piece. And that's a big part of what we do to sort of make our students feel safe, feel welcome, and able to achieve their learning goals.
Thank you, team. Thank you, Josh. Are you able to hear me? I'm having a little bit of a computer delay on. Someone confirm that my voice is
we can
perfect.
hear you.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, so just to wrap things up, I really want to stress that for us, the magic of Island Connected is that our focus on community and our staff's passion towards trying to build engagement with what at times can be a very disconnected student body. And, you know, we pride ourselves on every day is just connect with one student, reach out. I wanted to share a quick story. I had a student, her name was Jenna. She came to us, enrolled full-time, enrolled online, never came into our building. And last year we had a hiking series. And for the first time I met the student at Calgary Dam, and a very unique student. It was a grade 11, hadn't been in school for a year, and there was trauma in the past, and came out and was just bouncing around and said, I haven't been out of my room for 2-3 months or maybe longer, and this is awesome, and there's nice people. Yeah, this is what we do. And anyways, through that connection, came in to the school and did a learning plan, connected over the summer, started attending and feeling safe sort of at the end of the year, in the spring last year and over the summer. Working with Josh and the team, became connected, reconnected through the adult grad path, and we're one course away from graduation. Is now doing working with our K7 group, has become a leader, and the complexity of the student and their story is it's mind-blowing. And this is not our only student. There's just, when we look at our full-timers and the complexity of these students and where they're at, it's not, as I said in my introduction, the student who's self-motivated, well-organized. We're just looking at a level of complexity that's so different, and we pride ourselves on being able to be different, to build community, to increase engagement, and we're trying everything we can to reach out and to foster those good relationships and to help students feel successful and graduate with dignity. And so I wanted to thank everyone tonight for patiently listening to us. I wanted huge thanks to our team, and good night. Yeah, hi Chika. Hi Sepka.
Thank you very much, Island Connected. I appreciate the time you've spent with us this evening, as well as thank you to Quarterway. Don, did you have some final words?
No, I think we'll open it up to questions.
Thank you. We do have some some questions. The first up is Trustee Robinson.
Thank you, Chair. I hope folks can hear me. Justin and Mark made me excited, more excited than ever. Not just with ICE, but also with Quarterway. I was already excited about Quarterway when Justin and Mark gave his 2 cents. I even got more excited. So thank you, Justin. And a shout out to Lindsay, Drea, and Josh also. Wouldn't be successful without any of you folks. Thank you so much. My question is for Madame Kake, actually. Madame Kake, thank you for your presentation and your staff's presentation. My question is, I'm just so touched with the so many aspects of your presentation. Thank you so much. The human library, that's empathy building, you know, and that's very important when we're in a society with social media and everything else that we see going out there. It's important for kids in elementary to as they're growing and developing, to have that, you know, what living is like in Guatemala. These are things that can open the kids' hearts and really see from another perspective. In terms of the sense of belonging, a sense of being able to participate, activities. I absolutely love the students leading the assembly. I'm just wondering, Madame Kake, apart from the students leading assembly and a few others you mentioned, notwithstanding the traffic, because I know that the kids don't participate in that anymore. Maybe you could touch on that a little bit to find out why they don't do that. But what other things are kids doing to feel a sense of participation and hands-on? Thank you. Merci beaucoup. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. This is a great question. You know, in our school, we really make sure kids are doing things, decks, you know, hands on hand. And you can see that in many other forms. Like at school, we have our grade 7, group of grade 7 who will come in the classroom and help other kids, you know, with the reading, because sometimes we really need person who speak, who are bilingual, and they will come, they will be like a big buddy to the little kid, and they will have a reading circle with the big body kids. And also outside in September and October, when we have our kindergarten just coming first time in the school, you have that big field that can be very intimidated for a kindergarten. You will have all those grade 4, 5, 6 kids who will have a different vest, a bright vest, and they will be the person in the school field to support and help our students as well. And yeah, it's so many ways that we have kids feel safe and feel welcome. Sometime in kindergarten, you will have one kid really related to a 4 or to grade 4 or 5. So they will have a friendship going there as well. And sometimes too, it depends of the kid's interest. You know, it depends. Sometimes you will have the kid that's not interested in helping with other kids, but they will be interested in helping in the cafeteria. We have a canteen here. So some kids will really just want to come and help giving extra lunch to other students. So yeah.
Thank you. I have a follow-up, Chair.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Kake. Just a follow-up question. Just not doing the traffic, stopping that program with the kids getting involved. Was that just a safety issue, I think?
It was a that was a safety issue, the traffic one. Yeah, and at this moment we are in communication with the city on how we can make that more safe, right? We need an adult there, 2 adults and the kids, and making sure that our kids have been trained and that it's safe. And I stopped that because myself, I witnessed the way that the driver was coming there. And when the kids come to me and say, Madame Kake, I'm not feeling safe, they're going too fast. Therefore, I need to make that decision. You know what? It's okay. I'm going to be there. I'm going to talk with the city, and we can have, at this moment, what you can see, we have cone that the city gave us. They say, yes, it's big enough. You can have those cones. And they are assessing to see how they can support us. Yes, and they are aware of that. Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much. And thank you, Justin Mark and the folks at ICE Island Connected. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Next up is Tom. Trustee Ropey.
Bonjour mes amis, salut. Coeur d'Oise, je t'aime vraiment. Vos efforts avec mes enfants, ça m'étonne. Yeah, I can't say enough. I could go on in French, but I think this is a public meeting. So, Yeah, my kids have been all the way through Quarterway, just about paired up with Justin's, and we were really delighted with the community we found. My daughter was really excited that she came home today and said, "Madame Mountain's going to be in your meeting today," or "Madame Patty's going to be in your meeting today." So, yeah, so she was really excited about that, and yeah, my kids likes to get involved in stuff. Both kids do.
Yes.
And they've found lots of outlets for that at Quarterway. So aside from the gushing, I wanted to actually jump into something that one of your, gosh, I'm going to get it wrong. It might have been Madame Patty, but it was one of the other wonderful staff members. She talked about how her wraparound supports are extending beyond students to the staff in the building. And I really wanted to touch on that wonderful sentiment and maybe connect it to the whole learning. My daughter's a very sensitive child. People that work with her know this. Her teacher's been sick for a couple of weeks. I hear she's better. This was really disruptive to my daughter. She did not like this. Yeah, the TTOCs who came in did a fantastic job. The staff never stopped being supportive. Quarterway never stopped being Quarterway. But yeah, this care for each other, it needs to extend to the entire building. So I just really want to commend, and maybe can who said that? Because that was just beautiful. And I really.
It's our
Madame Kake,
counselor.
go ahead.
It's our counselor. It's Patty. Patty, you are here?
I am, Tom.
Yes.
This is like so awesome that I don't know why I'm dark here, team. I don't know what's going on behind me. Oh, it's just so ironic that you're asking this question because Mariella was absent for a couple of weeks and I still don't know why I'm dark, my friends. But anyways, the best story, so this is an example of what I mean by collecting my staff to make sure that they're okay too. Oh, I'm so frustrated you can't see me because I'm smiling.
You sound great.
Right? So she comes back to school today and I walked up to her and I put my hand out and I'm like, "My name's Patty, what's yours? You're new here." And she said, "My name's Mariella and I've been absent." And so we had a little giggle. And it's that type of thing where I say that I collect them, that I noticed you're gone. I missed you. The kids missed you. I'm so happy you're back. And just making sure that me as me, because I've been there for 4 years, makes that connection, a little giggle, a support, I got your back and let's go type of thing. So that's kind of what I'm getting at. I do that for everybody, but it's ironic that you're asking me that today because that's exactly what we're all doing it. But that was what I did for Carmana's teacher today.
And she's really excited to be part of the, I think is the Pink Shirt Day coming up, or maybe a Pride assembly. She's been involved in a couple of those hands-on. So yeah, thank you for all those opportunities, and thank you for taking such good care of my kids. Yeah, I've got another question for ICE, but I wanted to start with Quarterway. So. I only have 2 more years there, so I got to tell you, they've been fantastic. And yeah, not to harp on it, but I was so happy when I came and saw the cones on the street and not our children. Thank you, Madame Kake. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, Tom, I'm just looking at the time, so maybe you have a question
the speakers
for...
list. Sure, it might be more complicated than our needs here, but I'm connecting the ICE experience to what I hear about our failure to get kind of language in the contract around your numbers and how many kids teachers are supporting. Do we have any clarity around that? And I guess I'm wondering maybe to hear from someone who teaches. Sorry, we all are teachers, but what their day looks like, and are we getting the resources we need when considering that so much of this is based on language that's in the contract? So yeah, how is that affecting your operations?
I'm happy to jump in. I'll be really, I don't know, maybe blunt is the word. There is no specific language in the provincial contract about class size limits for online learning. That said, we operate at our K7 with the district on about a ratio of 1 to 35, and at our 8-9 team about 1 to 30. And we've kind of been working, and it's a little more complex. And I would be, gladly pass it on to to either Drea or to Josh to comment a little bit about their workload and the ebbs and flows, because it is unique in the online. But at the secondary level, and it's something that we're working at, with the continued enrollment, we kind of have a soft number of 210, and that's it's not written in stone, but it's something that we try to, certainly as a staff, respect, because what we do know is that if a staff has too many students, say an English teacher or a math teacher, that it's harder for them to be more responsive. But what's very difficult with online is that not all students are active all at the same time, and you don't have that captive audience. And, you know, in a classroom with a ratio of 1 to 30 in the secondary, you have that captive audience for that set block. And then in the online context, your students are working at different paces. Continual enrollment means they're starting at different times. So it is a complex balancing act, and there's times when it's very stressful, and there's times when there's more flexibility in the day. But I'm going to pass it on to Drea or to Josh, if they don't mind, to just give a quick context about that that workflow.
Thank you, Justin.
Yeah. So as a 10 to 12 teacher, I am at ICE half my time, and then I'm embedded at Barsby half the other time. And so each one of the embedded rooms is different. So some of our embedded rooms are more full than other schools, with Dover having class sizes of upwards of 50, and then Barsby having classes of around 20 this semester. So we have about 405 students embedded. I'm wondering if my camera is, are you guys able to hear me? I'm good?
Yeah, you
okay.
look and sound great here.
Yeah, sounding
Okay,
great.
great. And then I currently have around 120 students who are either currently working or activating. I don't have up-to-date numbers because I was away today, and I had continuously students enrolling because it's the beginning of semester. So I have students who are finishing the course, partway through the course, or are just starting the course. And so my workflow every day looks very different. I'm answering emails, I'm working with students, I'm marking, I'm often answering emails, trying to get back to them. I was fielding a phone call today about a course. A student wanted to know what the course was going to be like. And so walking the parent and the student through what that course would be like. So every day is very, very different. And then I teach, I think I'm currently teaching 9 courses right now. So in English, drama, and infotech. So I teach a variety of courses in my passion areas. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'll maybe just speak a little bit to student support on site as well. And so once again, everything in ICE just looks a little bit different than bricks and mortar. We've received some new team members this year to help support our students, specifically our Indigenous students. And we've been really happy to work with a coordinator, with a support worker who comes half a week or half of the week. And so Wednesdays, Thursday mornings, and Fridays. The levels of anxiety that we see with our kids is concerning, and I think is one of our biggest challenges. We do have a counselor that comes in. We have one counselor that comes in on Tuesday and one counselor that comes in on Thursday. So there's opportunities for students to connect and be supported there. And then we have an amazing CFSYW who is working in the community to try to bring kids in. We've been talking a lot about how to use our equity funds to help with some food and food security support. But every student's coming with a different set of challenges. And so as someone who is helping students to plan their courses, is helping teachers to sort of reach out, engage, reconnect, find additional supports for students, it can be tricky just because every situation is different. And some students need so much support because they don't have the scheduled structure there. Home support in terms of parents' abilities to be able to support their children's learning at home is also on a spectrum, and that becomes a really key element for some students in their success. Other students rely more on the school for that. And so when you talk about supports, it's a big open question. We deal with a lot of different cases, and we do our best to be flexible and support in whatever ways we can.
And I just wanted to add really quickly,
when you think about K-7, it's run very differently than a traditional bricks and mortar school. Our students are not on site, and the majority of the schooling is happening at home. So even if we're getting all of these students with IEPs, we don't have to deal with the IEP in the same way because the same things aren't happening at school. We only have them for a short time, so we can cover it. We feel quite supported for the most part with our students.
Well, yeah, thank you very much, and good luck with the ebb, and I'm looking forward to the next flow. Yeah, thank you for your work.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Trustee Chairperson Keller.
Thank you, Trustee Bailey, Chair Bailey. Just through you, I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge staff this evening for coming together to bring the board a whole lot of information. And I recognize that there's a whole lot of effort that goes into bringing that information to us. And specifically, you know, just wanting to tie that back as to why you're here, because I think it's important to remind the board as well. This is how we find out what's happening across the district with respect to our strategic plan, and specifically this evening, the goals of continuous improvement of instruction and assessment, and the other one being safe, caring, and healthy learning and working environment. So Education Committee is always a good opportunity, I find, for us to learn about the different things that the district is working on, the good work that we do in moving or advancing our board strategic plan goals forward. So just wanted to make that connection and wanted to thank staff for their time and efforts this evening in bringing this to the committee. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Trustee Keller, Chairperson Keller. Yeah, I just want to echo what Trustee Keller just stated. I just put in the comments, and I'm so grateful for the staff at these schools. I just know how much love and commitment you're putting into your work, and it's just really wonderful to see. So I think that wraps up the presentations in this section. So thank you very much for coming and presenting. And now we're on item 8.3, which is the local school calendar. And there's a motion, but I understand that Trustee McKay has indicated a desire to postpone this motion. And I'm going to ask our Secretary Treasurer, Mark Walsh, to walk us through this, as it's something a bit different.
Sure, thank you, Chair. So the way that a postponement would occur is that the chair would seek a mover and a seconder to the main motion. Technically, the mover could motivate. However, in the circumstances given the clear desire potential to postpone, then the chair would call upon Trustee McKay, or whoever it indeed is going to move the motion to postpone. The individual, in this case Trustee McKay, would move the motion to postpone. Upon receiving a seconder, would motivate the reason for postponement, and then any debate would be limited only to that postponement. And normally the postponement would have a specific date, but the next board meeting, as an example, would be inappropriate, or the next appropriate board meeting would be appropriate in the circumstances. So that's how that would function. So you still need to move the motion, whether even the individual moving it wants to pass it or not. It needs to be put on the table in order for a postponement to occur.
Okay. So Trustee McKay?
Sorry, I just have a point of order, Chair. I think we missed 8.2 on our agenda this evening.
I saw that, and I'm going to circle back to that. That was just, I called 8.2 actually the calendar, so my apologies. I will go back to that after this.
Okay, so I guess what I'll do is I'll move the motion from the agenda, and if somebody seconds that, then I can move a postponement, if I understand Mr. Walsh. So I'll move the motion that the Education Committee recommends that the Board of Education of School District number 68 and I'm a Lady Smith approve the attached 3-year school local calendars for 2023, 24, 2024, 25, and 2025, 26.
Can I just get some clarification? I apologize.
I
So
have to
we're-
move. I have to
Oh.
move that motion, and
Okay.
then somebody has to second it before I can offer my postponement.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Greg Keller?
Thanks. So Chair, if it's okay, now that we're in motion, I'll offer my postponement motion.
Okay.
So I move that the calendar agenda item be postponed to the next appropriate meeting. If I have a seconder, I can explain.
Seconder? Mark Robinson?
Thank you. So just to motivate, the reason that I'm offering this postponement motion is that as the board's BCPC rep, I think that there is an opportunity for us here to just pause the decision on this and create some shared understandings around the limitations that are placed upon the Board of Education and their co-governance role, with BCPC being an oversight provider, I guess, to the board on behalf of the government. And I think that if we can postpone this motion, it will allow us the opportunity to treat the postponement as an invitation to our partner group to come back to the table and have further discussions regarding a 2-week spring break prior to the board having to make a decision. So hopefully we can postpone and open up some different conversation. Thanks.
All right, I see there's an additional, like a comment on the motivation. Can I do that? Mark?
The debate is limited to the merits of postponing is what the Roberts rules
Yes.
suggest.
Okay. So Trustee Robinson, I see you have a comment.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I agree with postponement, not exactly for the reasons that the mover made, but I agree with postponing. I just looking at the number of attendees that we have, this is probably one of the highest turnouts we've had since we've begun this journey, and I'm excited to see so many active and engaged participants. I hope that lasts throughout the next 4 years, but it's a Wednesday evening. We have families, lives, obligations on a Wednesday night that we would rather be doing than having to do this. The number of individuals here tonight wouldn't even fill our board office at DAC. So clearly this is an important issue for all of you who are here to be here. So thank you. It's encouraging to know that you will be here when you need to be here to keep us in line. Having said that, cognizant of the time, I won't list the issues that I have with the calendar. So I agree with the postponement for various reasons. Disappointment is an understatement. We trustees are here to lead, so let's lead. Change at this magnitude, it's too big, you know. We walk together as one family, and we can do better. We should do better, and we can sharpen our pencils and do better. So thank you, Trustee McKay, for making the motion, and hopefully we all support the postponement. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Trustee Robinson. Trustee Brozovic?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just would say that I have faith in all of our staff, both our staff as in the union and in our senior management team. I believe that we've had a rough week on all counts, and this is a good opportunity to just have a nice quick cooling off period, and then hopefully we can come back we get back to the table and we can try to find a solution that will allow us to have this 2-week spring break, which I know the majority of us want. And I commend and appreciate Trustee McKay for bringing forward this motion.
Any other comments?
Can I close
Okay.
debate? May I close, Chair?
Pardon?
May I close?
You may
There's a late
close.
comment in the chat, sorry. There's a late comment.
Oh, okay, sorry, thank you for letting me know. Jeremy,
Thank you. I'd like to speak in favor of the motion. I did want to ask a question earlier, but it's not exactly relevant now. But I'd like to ask it later if I could on process. But at this time, I'd like to speak on the motion, and I'm grateful for this motion to refer because I do think that we can come back to the table. I appreciate the invite, and the NDTA will be back at the table as soon as we can arrange a time. Thank you.
thank you very much. Yeah, I'm very grateful to see this as well. Trustee McKay is bringing this forward, and I do have faith that both parties can get together and we could work out something. And so I'm very grateful. So I'm going to let Charlene, Trustee McKay, close.
Thank you. I prefer Charlene. The title makes me freak out a little bit. Thanks, though. So just to close on the postponement, I believe that the postponement provides the district board staff working on our behalf to be able to continue to work with our partner group, the Nanaimo Teachers Association. And given that we've heard a lot of information and interest in this topic, I just think this is a really good opportunity for us to come together and see what we can work out. So thank you for the opportunity to close, Chair.
You're welcome. So I guess we will vote on the motion to postpone. Do I need to read out the motion, or do we need to read it out again, or just we're going to defer, postpone the motion until the next appropriate meeting was what it was. So if anyone is opposed to this motion, could you please put it in the chat? So not seeing anyone opposing, then the motion's passed. Not really certain about, I think what we're going to do is move on to 8.2, which I apologize. I moved to 8.3 probably because I've been a little stressed out about 8.3. So I apologize, Laura. I'm going to let you move on to 8.2 and we'll hear that presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Tough act to follow. It was a little anticlimactic, AP 348. Yeah. Okay, so I thought I would take a really quick opportunity, and I'll be super quick this evening, just to highlight AP 348, which is research in schools. We made some very minor changes to it, and I think it's a great idea to highlight APs to the board whenever we can, just to provide some, learning and understanding as you're orienting yourselves to your new roles. So AP 348, Research in Schools, helps guide us when we have researchers who request to do research in our schools. And I'll underscore that we get several requests, a great number of requests to do research in our schools every year. So the AP outlines its purpose, and we, as I said, we've made 2 small changes to it. And the AP itself is utilized, as I said, to guide the work within the district, but it also helps the researcher understand the application process, if you will. We have guidance around adjudication of the applicants, which include what we call screening or screening considerations. And I'm sure you've had an opportunity to glance at those in your package, but the screening considerations include a number of items such as sensitivity of the research, its intrusiveness potentially, relevance to education in our district, or scope are a few examples. It outlines that anyone having connection or coming into our schools in this manner requires a criminal record check. They're required to provide informed consent sign off for anyone that they have interaction with that's involved in their research. And they're also required to provide the district with the results of their research so we can see what they learned throughout this process. So the two changes that we made recently were under the heading of screening, and we added a little bit under C, personal information. It did include infringement of personal or of family privacy, and we added some other aspects to that. We're also considering naming of individuals, schools, staff, students, and/or parents in the report. That's also something else we'll screen for. And then we added J around honorariums so that to ensure that there are no rewards or honorariums to offer to research participants. So that is AP 348, Research in Schools, and I appreciate the opportunity to share that a little bit with you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Deputy Superintendent. Are there any questions on this item? Okay. Moving on, there's apparently several people that had wanted to discuss process. I'm sorry, sometimes it's really hard to follow the chat because people are commenting in the chat as well. And so I might overlook somebody and it's not intentional or a slight against anyone. It's just trying to follow it. I'm jotting down names and trying to acknowledge, but I apologize. So Jeremy would like to, has a question about process, I understand.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And then through you, I'm assuming it's to the Secretary Treasurer, but we can make the decision. Question about the version of Robert's Rules that we're using in these meetings, and I'm not asking for which one, but along those processes of if a motion is in the agenda but is not moved, doesn't have a mover and or seconder, what happens?
Absolutely nothing happens. It would just disappear, or it would, or it could be re-added at a later time as well. So it doesn't get defeated, it just doesn't get moved.
So as a follow-up, that would have been an alternate way of handling that situation.
Yes, it could have been, and I will say the recommendation from me to ensure transparency to the community that the item will be back was the direction the board went, and so individuals can anticipate that it will be postponed to the next appropriate meeting rather than just have it disappear. It wouldn't appear in the minutes if that was the case, and then it wouldn't necessarily. It has to appear on a future agenda, but it wouldn't appear in the minutes, and so for transparency's sake, that was the that's the recommended way to move forward.
I appreciate that explanation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up on the list was Tom.
Hi, and thank you, Chair. I really appreciate this opportunity. I've been trying to get the right time to put it in, and I think a lot of people on the board probably feel this, but I need to make the connection at a certain point. I've been reached out in the last 48 hours by so many passionate educators and stakeholders in our community, and I just wanted to let them know that I was gratified by their trust. I was moved by their commitment and passion for education in our district, and those channels will always be open for the betterment of student learning in our district. So to all those people who reached out, please, thank you. I can't do this job properly without your input. So I know that a lot of people probably feel that way, but I wanted to say it. So thank you for the indulgence, Chair.
Thank you. And Jessica, I believe you wanted to make a comment. Somebody had said that.
Yes, it's me. I'm probably I'm going to be difficult. Can I please get clarification on roughly timeline for when an appropriate meeting would be? Like, are we talking business committee next week, or are we talking next education committee meeting in a month from now? Because this all came very quickly and was kind of a surprise for families in the district. And so just a little bit more clarification on timeline would be great. Thank you.
So through you, Chair. So in this particular case, given that I think, as Mr. Ichko noted and the mover noted that the parties need to sit down. And so what we didn't want to do is say the next board meeting, because if that's not enough time, or we didn't, and business committee, no, absolutely not, but it will be published well in advance. Regular stakeholders will be informed as to when it comes back to the board. But the business committee is, I would say, a hard no, because gets published this Friday, and so that's not a lot of time to sit down. So it's really dependent on those discussions, which is why a specific date was not encouraged to be embedded into the memo or to the motion. I'm sorry.
Okay. Do you have a follow-up, Jessica?
No, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm really glad that we are postponing this, and I just want to just end by saying I'm a lifelong learner. I think most of us here at the table are lifelong learners, and we learn from mistakes, and hopefully our communication can improve, and we can get something arranged. So I'm going to move on to, I don't believe we have any unfinished business. There was correspondence referred from the school board meeting. New business, Chantel?
Thank you, Trustee Bailey, Chair, for indulging me and just making these two small, not really small, big ones for everyone. I wanted to highlight that today is the start of Black History Month, and with the Minister of Education and Childcare creating an anti-racism action plan. I just want to invite everyone to kind of not only celebrate and honor this month, but like throughout the year, by uplifting and amplifying Black voices, stories, and experiences, and working together to make our society anti-racist. I think it's really important work. And as Naomi perfectly said, we are all lifelong learners. And I'm excited for the work that's coming up for our JEDI, Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion that's happening. And I was going to bring forward and highlight that, you know, the environmental survey is still out and for folks to fill it in. But I've been told there's been a couple of bugs with it. So it's really for staff right now. And then the wider community will be, it'll be available for them shortly. So so it's good for staff right now. If you could fill it out, that would be fantastic. But the wider community they'll have an opportunity in the near future to also answer that fantastic survey. So as I think it's Trustee Robinson said, or was it Trustee Rokeby, was like, you know, give us tell us what you think. You know, this is the opportunity to do that, and I think it's a great tool to guide us forward in the future. And I thank you for all of that work from the staff. It's good work and it's hard work, and I'm proud of that going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Trustee Morvay. I didn't see any questions, so I'm moving to adjournment. Do I have a motion, somebody to move to adjourn? Anyone?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
And a seconder, so is Tom?
Yep.
Okay, so good night, everyone. Thanks for attending and for all your hard work. Much appreciated. Have a good night.
Good night, everyone. Thank you,
Good
staff.
night,
Thank you,
everyone.
teachers.
Good
Thank you,
night, everyone.
presenters.
Thank you for the presentations and all the hard work.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Night. Good night, Jeremy.